Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching Renovation at School. My name is Mustafa, and in this episode I want to show you how to replace a toilet. The first thing you want to do is to turn off the water line. After you turn off the water line, you want to flush the toilet and hold the flush for about 10 to 15 seconds. Basically, by holding that flush, you allow all the water from the tank to go down. Now the toilet is completely empty. Let me show you how I get rid of that water. So I'm going to show you two ways to get rid of this water. The first way is to use a sponge, drop it inside the water, allow it to suck up some water, and then empty it up inside a bucket. Repeat this a few times until all the water is gone. The other method that I like the most, it's the cleaner way. It's by using this siphon pump. I got the siphon pump from Canadian Tire. Places like auto parts stores have it. They normally use the siphon pump for removing oil or gas from vehicles. It's pretty easy to use. All you need to do is to push this side inside the toilet and put the other side inside your bucket. And then you're going to pump this pump a few times and it's going to get rid of all that water. Just take a look at this. As you can see, this was pretty nice and easy. I didn't even have to put my hand inside it. There's a few drops of water that is left at the very bottom of the bowl. You can get some toilet paper and drop it there so it can soak up that little bit of water, so when you're removing it, the water doesn't come down on the floor. Or if you have a sponge, you can just stuff it in there. So now it's time to disconnect the water line and also the bolts from the flange so we can remove this toilet. Let me show you how I do that. I always start by removing this tank lid. At the bottom of your tank, you're going to have a pipe like this. You have to unscrew this counterclockwise so it comes off. Be prepared, maybe some water comes off. And then on the bottom part of your toilet, there's going to be two bolts. One is going to be on this side and one on the other side that needs to come off. So as you can see, there is a lid here. You have to remove it, put it aside, and that bolt has to come off. So now that the water line is completely disconnected and also the toilet is disconnected from the flange, I'm going to remove it. But before I do that, I place some plastic down here so when I remove it, if there is any water coming, it's not going to make a mess on my floor. So the way I like to remove it, I tilt it on both sides and then it comes right up. I lift it up and it comes back and put it on top of the plastic. The first thing I always do, I got myself some shop towels and I'm going to clean up all this area around the toilet. It's a good idea to wear disposable gloves also. The next thing I like to do is to remove that wax ring. And then I clean up everywhere using my towels and a scraper. Now if you need to paint your wall, you have to do it now before installing your new toilet. But I decided to go with a wall design like this. If you like it, you can watch my next video. Now that we cleaned up the old wax, it's time to put these screws. We're going to put them in like that. So at this point, I just put the base of the toilet on top of this, just so I can see the height of these. I want to double check if these are the right height first. In my case, they weren't the right height. So I got myself these longer screws. As you can see, they're the same, but they're longer size. They're about 3/4 of an inch longer than these. So I'm going to put these in place, just like that. And then you're going to have these washers in your package, in the toilet package. So these are supposed to go on top of these screws. You're going to put them all the way down. And then you're going to pull onto this and push this all the way down. So basically what it does, it's going to hold this screw down in place so it doesn't move on you when you're actually trying to install the toilet. As you can see, this one wobbles a lot. So now that the screws are on, let's talk about the actual flange. In normal situations, this has to be flush with the tile, or it might be sitting slightly higher than the surface of the tile. But as you can see in my case, this is sitting slightly lower than the tile. This is sitting about 3/8 of an inch lower. So in the actual toilet package, you're going to get a ring like this. 99% of toilet packages come with one ring like this. This is a wax that you can install it. I show you how to install this one. But if it's your first time, I highly recommend you to get yourself something like this. So this is a rubber gasket. I find this a lot better than the other one because as you can see, if I squish it and then let it go, it's going to come back to the same form. It's not going to lose its form. And plus, if you install this and then you notice there's something wrong, you pull your toilet out, you don't have to go and buy new wax, because if you push the wax and it loses its form, it's going to stay like that. So I like this, and instead of that, I highly recommend you to get one of these for a few bucks more. This is how you install it. You just put this on like that, and then you put the toilet on top of this. Now keep in mind, if you're using this, your toilet must be flush with the tile, or it might be sitting slightly higher. If it's lower than this, I don't recommend you to use it. In that case, we have two other options, which I'm going to show you those options as well. Because my toilet flange is sitting lower than the tile, I can either go with a thicker type of a wax. As you can see, this is almost double the size of the regular wax. And the good thing about this one, this specific brand, is it comes with another extra flange. So when you're trying to install this toilet, it kind of lines itself with the toilet there, with the toilet flange, and it's going to stop any possible leakage. So the water is not going to go this way. It's going to kind of redirect the water down right inside the pipe. I like it. It's going to work 100% in this situation, and it is a very good option. This is another available option. Again, I like this better than the wax. This comes with another spacer. This has a foam gasket on the bottom part. This is how it goes on. Again, because my flange is sitting lower than the surface of the tile, this goes on like this. And then this piece sits on top of it. This also has a gasket on the bottom. As you can see, it's a rubber. And then this sits right on top of this as well, just like this. Now I can put the base of the toilet on top of this. If your toilet flange is sitting flush with the surface of the tile, or it's slightly higher, you can just put this piece of it on. This is going to work just fine. The same way it's going to go in. And as you can see, it has that extra liner in the inside. Just line it up like that. As you can see, it has that extra liner inside, and again, it's going to be a very, very good option. It's going to stop any kind of a leakage from these sides and stuff like that. It's a premium option for installing toilet. As far as these bolts, before installing the toilet on top of it, you want these to be parallel with the back wall. Of course, there are many other ways to do this. Basically, you can use a flange extension, or you can use different types of these, but In my case, these are the cheapest and easiest ways of doing it, so I like to share all this information with you guys. I hope it doesn't bore you. You need to know these beforehand before you install a new toilet. If you're planning on using the wax rings, it just goes on like this. You put it in place. The wax normally comes with a piece of plastic. Put it on top and push it down a little bit. Move it a little bit, just wiggle it so it has full contact with the base of the toilet. Now it's ready to install. I pushed this area a little bit too much. It's the same concept with these ones. This one has a flange and it is the thicker one. Even the thinner ones has a flange sometimes. If you want to install them, it has to go like this. The flange has to be facing up. You put that plastic back on and just push it a little bit so it has full contact with the base of the toilet. Now it's ready to be installed on top of the flange. So if you're using the wax ring, because the wax is sitting on the bottom of the toilet right now, you got to be extra careful when you're trying to line up these bolts. You just don't want to damage the wax ring. You just put it in place. Sits there and then you're going to push it down. In my case, most of the time I just sit on the toilet and push it all the way down so it kind of squeezes out and kind of make the full contact. So after the toilet is in, this piece has to go on. This part has to be on the bottom. The flat side should be on top. Just put it on like that. Then you're going to put that washer on. And then the bolt goes on it. Tighten it up by hand as much as you can. Repeat this for the other side. And then I tighten up this bolt a little bit at a time. Go down a little bit. Once I feel a little bit of force, I'm going to do the same thing on that side. If you over tighten the bolts, you're either going to break your actual toilet or your flange is going to be messed up. So extra careful with this. You don't have to put too much pressure on it. As long as the toilet is sitting nice and it doesn't move, you're okay. So at this point, before you tighten up the bolts all the way down, it's a very good idea to double check for level. Just use your small level, put it on there. Make sure it's level on both sides. And don't be too fussy with this. In my case, it's perfect. If it's a little bit off, you're okay, don't worry about it. But I've been working at cottages, mobile homes, or very old houses sometimes. And when you're installing a toilet, you notice it's sitting pretty crooked. That's the time you need to be worried about. And sometimes I notice maybe from one side of the bathroom to the other side, it's probably like 2 inches off. I can see it by naked eye. So in those cases, it's a good idea to use some shims underneath of the toilet and make sure it's sitting nice and perfect. You're going to use as many shims as you need as long as the toilet is sitting nice and level. Basically, once you use the shims and you got it level, you can tighten up the bolts all the way down. And then you can score these shims with some kind of a knife and then break them off, throw them out. Once the job is completely done, you can use some kind of a silicone to seal up that bottom and fill up that gap that is left on the bottom of the toilet. So in my case, the toilet is sitting pretty nice and good. I'm ready to tighten up those bolts a little bit more just to be on the safe side. And then I'm going to mount the rest of the stuff on top of this toilet. This is the bottom of my toilet tank. It has a gasket like this. Yours might be slightly different, but this is how it looks like. I'm just going to place it on there and make sure it sits nice and firm in place like that. And then I'm going to put this right there. You may have to move it a couple of times to just hit that right spot. Once it sits there, you just wiggle it a little bit and push it down. I have these two nuts and bolts. They're going to be holding the tank down to the toilet. They used to be metal, but in new toilets they make it out of plastic. They used to rust up pretty bad, and when you wanted to replace these, it was a pain. It wasn't coming off very nice and easy. But nowadays it's all plastic, and this is how the washers look like on it. As you can see, I put it on and I pushed it all the way down so it sits nice and firm there. I'm going to show you how you're going to put these in. Okay, so I'm going to put these in place. One goes there and the other one goes in this one. I have a big flat-headed screwdriver. I'm going to tighten up the bolt from the top and line up the nuts on the bottom. The next thing I like to do is to hook up the water line to the bottom of the toilet. Make sure this gasket is sitting there. You don't have to use any type of a Teflon tape on that because it has that gasket. It's going to work nice and perfect. So just tighten it up. So it's time to install the toilet lid. Different manufacturers have different hardware and stuff, but mine, it's like this one. There's a washer that sits on top of this piece, and there's a longer screw that goes in it. You're going to place it like this and tighten this up with a screwdriver. We're going to repeat this on the other side. Different manufacturers have different parts and different way of installing this, so please make sure you check the booklet that came with the toilet just to be on the safe side so you can install yours properly. It's time to put these covers on it. They sit like so. It's time to put the actual lid on top. Again, I'm going to be lining up these two holes. Sits there nice and perfect. As you can see, it's operating pretty nice. Now it's time to adjust the float on the tank. So the tank is filled up now. We want the water to sit about 1 inch below this line, which in my case it is sitting there. I'm going to flush it one more time so we can see it again. So as you can see, in my case, it's stopping at the right height. I'm okay with that. But let's say yours is not doing that. Most of the time, you're going to have a screw here that you can adjust this float up or down. And then you can try it a couple of more times to see if it's sitting below the 1 inch or not. So again, right now, I'm going to shut off the water. If you purchase the same type of toilet from Costco, I'm going to show you how you can adjust this in case yours is not adjusted from the company. I begin by turning off the water. Once you shut off the main water line, there's a tab right here. You're going to push this up and out, and then the whole float will come right off. Be gentle with it. It's a cheap plastic. You don't want to break it. So this is how it looks like. As you can see, this is the float on this model. It's set at number 12, which is the right spot. If you want to take it off, you just move it to one side slightly and it comes right off. And it has these little kind of holes at the back that lines up with that tab in the center of this float part. So right now, again, mine was fine. If yours needs adjustment, you can either go up or down until you get your water line about 1 inch below that thing. I'm going to set it back up at number 12 and move it up and down. Make sure it sits on the right spot. And then I'm going to put the float back in place. There you go. There's two little pins. This one has to sit there. Once that sits in, we're going to push this up and put it in place again, like that. Then you have to push it down a little bit so it sits nice and perfect. Now I'm going to open up the water again and try another flush. So as you can see on this one, The right one is for liquid waste. This blue color one is going to be for solid waste. So make sure you put these the right way. That's going to be for liquid and it's marked as smaller. The bigger one is going to be for solid waste. I'm going to turn the back and tighten this up as much as I can. Now another thing to keep in mind, these also have adjustment. So if this is all the way out, if this is too far out, if you put it on, you're going to notice some kind of a water leakage like this. If you heard that, that means this is too far out. Make sure you just loosen this screw and push it back in a little bit and then tighten this up. Just like so. There you go. Just put it on first. If you don't hear anything, you're fine. Also, you can open the toilet lid and double check if there's any water running. That means this is slightly pushing onto that lever. And at the very end, I used my Sawzall to cut those bolts and then I capped it off so it looks nice and proper. So there you have it guys, this toilet is done and it's working nice and properly. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please make sure you hit that like button. And if you're new to my channel, please make sure you subscribe. If you had any questions, please make sure you drop me a comment and I will answer it as soon as I can. Thank you very much for giving me your time. Till next time, peace.